What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So we just got done with Unadilla. It was quite a race. We saw a few riders go down and get injured. It looks like Joe Shimoda has a shoulder injury. Unfortunately, we saw Chance Hymas go down really hard again. He might be okay. We saw him return for the second moto, but he did end up pulling off. We also saw Cooper Webb go down in the second moto in his first race back. So not really sure how he's doing. He was favoring his arm. We saw Hunter Lawrence ride really good in that first moto, and he also rode good in the second moto, but he was able to take home that win in moto number 1. So that was really cool to see. We saw Chase Sexton looking good as always, and he ended up taking home the overall win once again. We saw Vialle Kitchen return and go back to the front of the pack where he was before Washougal. And we saw Haiden Deegan extend his points lead by another massive margin once again. It was also really cool to see Ken Roczen get up there and run up towards the front. And it was pretty cool to see Dylan Ferrandis get a moto podium. But one thing that was not very cool was the ongoing theme throughout the day of flagging issues. So I want to go ahead and get into that a little bit. It's something I've been harping on throughout the season. We saw it a little bit in Supercross with some confusion between Levi Kitchen and Jordan Smith with the lights, and then also Jet Lawrence and the red cross flag. But I don't see as many flagging issues in Supercross, and I really think that the reason why is because it's a paid flagging team that travels with the series. And in pro motocross, it's almost like every single weekend there's at least one major flagging issue that we see on TV. Now this weekend in particular, it seemed to be a little bit more out of hand than usual. I saw countless issues and I was able to catch a few of them. I just recorded them on the TV really quick, so I'm just going to run through them, break them down. I have started to notice that MX Sports is putting some lights on the track, so I do applaud them for that. And I also am hearing that they're going to try to use an automated system with the lights and GPS and things like that, which I've been kind of talking about. Why aren't we doing that yet? You know, the technology is there. So it's good to see that they're moving forward in that direction as well. But it really doesn't change the fact that I have a problem with the way that they're handling their flaggers. I know that they need a lot of flaggers all throughout the track, but there's really no reason why we can't offer them paid training, or even better, just have a traveling flagging crew that could handle the majority of the critical flagging spots. And if you don't have enough positions to fill the larger tracks, then use some of the volunteers for the less critical, not blind jump sections. So anyways, there was at least 5 separate incidents that I saw, and I just want to get into them specifically and kind of break them down and how they could have been avoided and how they could have been worse. So the first one, and definitely the most dramatic one that I want to get into, is the one where we have Mark Fineis on the backside of what goes down to the wall in the back of the track where they go down the hill and then right back up. He has gone down, he's off the side of the track, he's standing there looking up the hill, looking for the flagger when another rider comes down and lands on his bike. Then we see Chance Hymas come down right behind him, and just by luck he's able to avoid the bike, so thankfully he didn't end up going down there. But you can visibly see the riders' frustration in their body language, like, dude, why are you not getting on the track and flagging? It sounds like the flagger was not even looking in his zone. He was not looking down the hill. He wasn't even aware that there was a rider down because he was probably in awe of all the cool riders around him. You know, he's not used to this environment. He's so close to the track, all these professionals, and he wasn't even doing what he was supposed to be doing. Now, again, that is an understandable thing to be doing, but if you're going to flag, you really need to step up and do it the right way. And again, I think this would have been avoided had we had a professional flagger that was paid and traveling to all the races. Now, someone who was there actually reported that another worker that normally works the Unadilla events had to jump over the fence and run up, take the flag, run onto the track, and basically start doing the job correctly. Now, eventually we did see a plethora of flaggers leading up to that issue, which is good to see that they did have enough flags there, but the response time is the real issue. And imagine if Chance had come down and landed on that guy, it would have been catastrophic. So I know motocross is always going to be dangerous, but that's something that could have easily been avoided. There's no reason that Mark Fineis should have had enough time to get up, walk off the side of the track, look up the hill, and then a rider still comes and lands on his bike because no one is flagging yet. Moving on to the next issue, we have another flagger who's just kind of holding a flag statically on the side of the track. So not really as big of a problem. It's actually leading up to this same incident, but later on when there was more flaggers out. So there was 3 or 4 flaggers past this one that were actually waving their flag. I'm not really sure why this one is just holding it statically, not waving it. We saw this happen with the red cross flag in Supercross, and Jet Lawrence was very upset at the fact that the flag was not waving and said that it didn't really draw his attention. So obviously Haiden was still able to avoid the issue. There was enough flags down the track. And you can clearly see that there's a yellow flag out, but the fact that it's not waving, it might not draw as much attention to it. So I just thought it was kind of weird that that was even happening. Thankfully, nothing bad happened, so it's all good. Moving on to the incident at the start of 250 Moto number 1, we see Tom Vialle come off the drop and he basically swaps and goes down. And the flagger that's right there that would be, designated for that area, instead of immediately raising his hand up with a waving flag so the riders that are still coming down the drop know to be looking ahead, he just kind of moseys over and walks in the direction of Tom, gets stuck trying to go stepping over the banner, and then he kind of gets the flag out and just faces in some awkward direction and just kind of flicks it. Not really sure exactly what that was all about. I will give him that at least he was being attentive and he was aware that there was a rider down, but the lack of urgency is kind of disgusting. It's the first lap. It's only a few turns into the track. There's a huge pack of riders behind Tom, and he's basically set up to get run over, 30 times. Thankfully, nobody hit him, but the lack of urgency and awareness as far as the need to get out on the track and at least make the riders aware that there's a rider down right there was pretty weird. And I just, again, if there were trained flaggers that were paid and going to all the races, I feel like this could have been a much better response. Next, we got to talk about that crash with Chance Hymas, where the flagger ends up running up and trying to help him. So real quick, I just want to give a shout out to Chance. Hope you're doing all right. It was great to see you get back in the racing in Moto number 2, even if it was just for part of the Moto. And I do have to say, at least the flagger was trying to help. But once again, I have to question the decision-making of this flagger running up while still holding the flag, which he was not waving, which is fine. Chance is not even on the track, really. So if you're going to abandon your post, just drop the flag, pick up the bike and get it off of him, but instead he decided to just awkwardly hold the bike with one hand a few inches above Chance and just kind of stand there. So again, I do appreciate that he at least tried to do something, but again, I really question the decision making and the reactions going on here. The next one I want to talk about is the one in 250 Moto number 2, where we see Joe Shimoda trying to hunt down Levi Kitchen for the race lead, and as they come around the corner, there's one flagger on the inside of the banner who's waving their flag. That's great. There's another flagger at the top of the jump who's also trying to wave his flag, but I don't know if it had a malfunction or what's going on, but it's pretty much just more like a string. So I don't know if that's a quality issue with the flag or what, but that was definitely not that effective. But the problem here is that there's a rider down immediately on the other side of the jump on a blind landing, and they're not directing the riders on which side of the jump they should be taking off from, and they actually almost end up landing on the rider. So here we have a good tight battle for the lead. There's no red cross flag, so they're not going to roll the jump. And these flaggers do have a good sense of urgency. They're trying to let the guys know, hey, there's somebody down, but they're going to still jump the jump because they're in full sand race mode. There's a lot of bonus money on the line, and both of these guys are trying to get momentum going back in their direction, so they're not going to let up. So my point is that the flagger ideally could have been directing them to go to one side or the other, or just stand on the lip where the rider is down, blocking them from going off the lip in that direction. Now, I do appreciate that these things happen fast, and there's never going to be a perfect scenario, but again, with paid professional flaggers, I feel like it would have been a much better response. And the announcers even speculated, hopefully they can sort that out so that way Haiden doesn't come around and land on him. So again, that would have been a pretty catastrophic event if Haiden comes around, lands on that bike, goes down, breaks his wrist, he's out for the rest of the season. Obviously didn't end up happening, but it's also something that could have happened. I feel like paid professional flaggers could get out there on the track and do a better job. And then just when I thought we were done having flagging issues, we get into 450 Moto number 2, and we unfortunately saw Cooper Webb go down, and he's again on another blind drop-off, similar to where Tom Vialle went down in the first Moto. And again, you can see that Webb is visibly frustrated with the flagging. He's telling him, get on the track, get on the track. He's trying to walk over to get his bike picked up, and he doesn't want to get landed on. So the flaggers are just off to the side, and they're not even flagging. It's kind of hard to see because we really only see their feet. But one thing's for sure is there's no real sense of urgency, which is a common theme with these flaggers. And then eventually, as Cooper's finally getting back on the bike, we see the flag waving, and it's all the way off to the side of the track on the outside of the berm. So who knows who's even going to notice it. Definitely not an ideal situation. And imagine if Cooper's getting back on his bike and then somebody comes around and goes off that jump not seeing him, and then they lock up their brakes, but it's too late and they end up T-boning him, and now they're both back on the ground. Webb's even hurt more. Thankfully that didn't happen, but if it did, that would have been totally inexcusable as well. So I am kind of curious how the riders feel about this. It seems to be a common theme that they're frustrated with the flagging. I know as a spectator and a fan of the sport, I'm frustrated and I'm not even the one putting my life on the line. I'm curious what you guys think. I have done other videos on this before where I've gone over possible solutions for this problem other than just having paid professional flaggers. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about the flagging situation. Does it need to change, and what would be your solution? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.